This episode is supported by Little Saints. More than a non-alcoholic beverage, it's a mushroom-infused cocktail that elevates the soul. Use code TheMothers20 for 20% off at littlesaints.com. That's TheMothers20 for 20% off at littlesaints.com. Now, enjoy the episode. Hello, party people. Welcome back to The Mothers. I'm Sara Brown. Actually, wait, it's your friend Sara, as Mel Robbins says on her podcast. I've been studying what this phenomenon has been doing to become oh so popular, and scaled intimacy is key. She says we're friends. She also closes every newsletter saying she loves me. So I'm your friend, and I love you. And as your friend who loves you, I'm also asking you to follow us on Instagram at The Mothers Pod and follow or subscribe to this very podcast on Spotify or Apple. You'll get a notification for upcoming episodes, and we'll be able to tell future sponsors that we have a large and deeply engaged audience, so they give us things to promote with discounts for you. So again, I'm just here trying to get you discounts on cool stuff, and if that's not what a friend who loves you does, I don't know what friendship and love is anymore. All right, Luby kickoff over. It's 80 degrees in October, so I apologize. Today, we have a superstar from the world of private equity. I was programmed by my largely anti-capitalist parents, primarily my father, to hate this industry, which isn't fair. He glided through life on the wings of WASP privilege, which is a comfortable place from which to judge money-making activities. Also happens to be what my husband does. So in service of my marriage, I see the good. And there is good. It takes money to turn an idea into a business, let alone grow a business. And if done effectively, it makes money for the builders and the money givers. This is America, baby. Takes money to make money. Anyway, this is actually a good place to start for the intro because our brilliant guest, Sophia Popova, made me believe in capitalism and in many ways America again. She was born in Bulgaria as the Berlin Wall was falling, so her parents operated in a strictly socialist environment. Her dad had an economics degree from the Karl Marx Institute of Economics, which apparently made absolutely zero mention of supply and demand. They moved to Waco, Texas when Sophia was little, and as she says, their jaw hit the floor to see the variety of products, the range of cereals in the grocery store, and to hear people disagree so openly in public, including critiquing their president. The grass is always greener. I won't spoil it because Sophia tells her story way better than me, but Sophia, powered by an entrepreneurial why not me spirit, a deep connection to family, and a joyful pursuit of excellence on her own terms, finds her way into some of America's most prestigious institutions, Yale, Harvard, Morgan Stanley, only to leap out of Morgan Stanley and do what most didn't at the time, run product for a 4-person tech startup. That risk and doing what most wouldn't gave her invaluable experience that has helped her become incredibly successful and savvy leading investments in the tech sector at Summit Partners, where she is now a partner. Oh yeah, and she has 2 young kids, and her husband is a busy lawyer. How is she doing this? What does she make of it? Why? I'll give you 2 hints. It has something to do with, 1, a near-death experience that helped her become grateful for the hard, and 2, an unintentional nugget of wisdom dropped by her great-grandfather during a paint-by-numbers exercise. Both might help you live your best life, or realize that you already do. So, dear friend whom I love, please enjoy my conversation with Sophia Popova. Thank you for doing this. It's been such a treat to meet you and many people just through doing this where I'm like, I have an excuse to meet these rock stars. So thank you for indulging and being a voice on this podcast. So I'm really excited to ask you all sorts of personal questions.
Yeah, no, thank you for honestly recording all of this, just listening to all of the other interviews. So inspiring to hear everyone's stories. And they're so different too.
Yes.
Kind of multifaceted. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Oh, good.
Getting this out there.
Thank you. Yeah. It's an amazing repository. My mom, forever a biographer historian, was like, this is just such a great time capsule of modern motherhood career management in 2025 and beyond. So now history or the future will thank us.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for being here. We do, as I guess you know, we love to the point of stories and hearing more people or what people's backstories are. love this question of kind of letting our guests tell their story about how they've reached this point and how they think about it, which is often different maybe than how the world or LinkedIn forces us to think about it. But yeah, to the extent, start wherever you want to begin.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start very far back because I think it
Perfect.
sort of informs how I view motherhood in
Yeah.
general. But so I was born in Bulgaria in Eastern Europe at the time when the Berlin Wall was falling and the country was undergoing a lot of economic turmoil because it had been a socialist country at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And because it was a socialist country, I come from a long line of working mothers. So going back to my great grandmothers, I have two sides of my family, one kind of more working class, the one more like elite, the other side more elite, kind of intelligent
Mm-hmm.
ability. And great grandmother worked in a meat packing plant, a farm. The other one was a socialite. One of my grandmothers was a radiology nurse. The other one was an
Mm-hmm.
engineer. And so I just say that to say like being a working mom was not groundbreaking for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
My family. I am
Yeah.
old news, very boring. And and
Can I
so
ask
I'm
what
not
kind of work they did?
so one of them was like a radiology nurse. She worked in a research, like a hospital, basically.
Okay.
The other one was an engineer in the sense that she worked in like drafting plans and things like that for
Mm,
new construction projects. There
cool.
was a flurry of construction during socialism to build giant blocks for people coming from, they were basically trying to get like people from the villages and the farms to industrialize in the city. And
Wow.
so she was really a part of that and building that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They needed a lot of workers. So my parents were very well positioned to succeed in that society. They went to
Mm-hmm.
the right schools, they knew the right people, and then the whole thing kind of collapsed. And so they had
Mm-hmm.
to start from scratch. And so my mom took her philosophy degree, which was useless. And my dad took his economics degree from the Karl Marx Institute of Economics, which
Oh
did
wow.
not talk about supply and demand. So it was like
Wow.
very
Oh
useless.
my God. This is
And
fascinating.
um, they applied to a bunch of graduate programs in America, hoping that they would do that for a few years and then go back to Bulgaria when things settled. Things never really got that much better, and things in America were so great that we
Yeah.
ended up
Yeah.
staying here and growing roots. But
Yeah.
we ended up moving to Waco, Texas when I was a
Mm,
toddler. My
wow.
my father got a degree, an MBA from Baylor University, and my mother kind of supported him at the time, and she worked at Whataburger. If you're not familiar with Whataburger, it's like a Wendy's or
Oh,
Burger King.
amazing. Wow.
My
Wow.
father worked in the cafeteria at Baylor when he wasn't in class. Um, and so over time, we very much lived out the American dream. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually, my parents worked in professional jobs. My mom got a law degree when she was in her 30s. And so I kind of got
Wow.
to watch her go
Yeah.
through all of those experiences as a child. And I think it was very formative. And so
Yeah.
for me, I think motherhood is not really a monolith, it's not a solitary activity. It is a complex web of family dynamics. And
Mm-hmm.
I think fatherhood is just as important as motherhood in one
Yeah.
sort of parental unit. Um,
Yes.
Oftentimes we focus so much on motherhood, rightly so, but I think there's this balance that has to exist in order to enable you to be an effective mother.
Absolutely.
And so I was always a math nerd growing up. I went to
Mm-hmm.
college and I had the ambition of studying computer science. But one of the professors there said, don't specialize so early. Computer science at the time felt very niche and like specific, although now it's
Mm.
not at all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he kind of said, you're going to end up knowing more and more about less and less until you know a lot about nothing at all. Study something that is more foundational, broader, more liberal arts. So I ended up
Huh.
studying economics and math. Um, and I took a job with Morgan Stanley right out of school,
Mm-hmm.
and it provided a great investment, sort of just foundation in financial
Yeah.
analysis. Um,
Were your parent? I'm trying to hold on this question.
yes,
Your parents from a socialist background, as you said, Marxist philosophy, no supply and demand. Were they like? Oh my God, my daughter's going into finance capitalism, like at its core, or was there any? Or were they like, this is what we do in America? Like,
no,
was there any sense of that?
I think they came to this country and their jaw hit the ground because
Mm.
they had been told so much baloney
Oh,
their whole
interesting.
lives about
Hmm.
what capitalism was, inequality, so on and so forth. And those things exist
Yeah.
by all means. We see
Yeah.
them every single day in this country. Um, but it also, they had never seen so many different kinds of meat in the grocery store. They'd never seen cereal. They had never seen paper towels. They'd never seen Christmas lights. And they also talked about how they've never heard people debate real issues so openly, like free speech.
Wow.
Like people on the street could say, "Oh, I disagree with the president." And they were just shocked by that. And it was so exciting that they said, this is how we do it in America. And let's just,
this is
an amazing
such good perspective. Obviously right now, everything is so weird, but,
I know.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm glad that you had supportive growing parents. That's awesome. So so Morgan Stanley, and then moved into, I think, some tech directly also on the product side, maybe?
So when I was at Morgan Stanley, I always wanted to know how to build a company from scratch. And the reason was my great grandfather was a very entrepreneurial kind of a guy, but he lived in the wrong society and he was persecuted for trying to invent stuff. So he used to use sheep's wool to weave textiles and sell rugs and blankets out of his attic. But private enterprise was not allowed in his country. And so all of his attempts to innovate were thwarted kind of tragically throughout his life. And I have just one memory from him, and that is me sitting in his lap doing a coloring exercise where it's kind of like paint by numbers telling you what to color. And he asked me, like, why are you following their colors? And I say, well, I want it to look good. And he says, why can't you decide what looks good? And I think that kernel of going against the grain kind of sat with me for a long time. And it's kind of what pushed me, like that little extra nudge to push me to join a 4-person tech startup out of Morgan Stanley rather than do what everyone else was doing, which was take really awesome jobs at private equity firms and venture capital, or not venture, but more like hedge funds. So it was a big leap of faith.
That's great. Yes.
And I was kind of like, why not?
Yes. So I personally admire it. Great choice.
Yeah, it was exciting and scary too, but I thought, what the heck, why not? And so
good for you.
I ended up kind of leading product there. It was, we ended up getting acquired. It was not a big successful outcome. It was kind of just probably what happens to 99% of startups out there. They just get swallowed up by something else. And
awesome exposure.
It was great exposure to see something from idea to company in 2 years. And then I went off to business school and I thought, okay, I want to flip to the investing side of tech. In part because I just wanted to be part of the entrepreneurial journey over and over and over again. And I knew I didn't have enough lives to see all the tech companies that I wanted to be a part of. I didn't want to just choose one. And so I joined Summit about 8 years ago. In general, I've kind of spent the last 15 years across tech and finance. But I joined this firm about 8 years ago. I'm a partner here and I invest in technology companies. My job is split into 3 parts. It's sourcing, so finding great tech companies to invest in, underwriting, so trying to model out how I think they will perform over time, and then ultimately kind of being a board member and supporting their growth once we invest, and finding out what their exit is. Summit in general has had a very, very long track record. We were founded in 1984. And we currently manage about $40+ billion under management. And so our goal is to find the top 1% of tech companies and invest in them. So that's kind of my story and kind of my path to becoming.
Yes. I love this kernel of why can't you color as you want, or why can't you decide what colors to make things? Because I feel like, reflecting back from what you just shared, I feel like you have a entrepreneurial individualistic spirit, which I love seeing that, because I think there's also a layer of your resume that is like
not
sort of high achieving, HBS, Yale, Morgan Stanley, all of these things. But also within that, you can do it your own way and you can think for yourself and you can take risks and you can, there are so many ways to remain true to yourself as you're going through these sort of otherwise kind of systems. But so anyways, deeply admire. And I should say, in my little internet sleuthing, you've won so many trophies for what you've done.
Really? Thank you.
There's so many private equity, like superstar, private equity person to watch, woman of the year. I don't know if it's woman of the year, but all sorts of excellence in PE.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I was like, amazing. And it's not phys ed, people. This is private equity. So congrats on being so also effective and finding such success doing it. When did kids come on the scene for you as you were going through this?
Yes. So they came on as I was an investor. My first child was born on Boston's first peak COVID day on April
Oh,
23rd of 2020.
wow.
Pushed that child out wearing a mask, like I'm
Oh
sure
my
many other
God.
people
I
did.
know. Were you
Everyone kind of,
alone? Was your husband there? Allowed to be in the
they
room?
actually let him in at the last moment. I think
Yeah.
they didn't have really tests back then. No one really
Yeah.
knew what this was.
Mm,
Certainly wasn't a vaccine. Was no vaccine. So it's kind of chaos,
yeah.
basically.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. But and then my second child was born in 2023. Um,
got it.
Claire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So two kids living in the city in Boston. We never expected necessarily to be in Boston, but we love it. We've grown roots here and it's a great city. Just, it's so walkable and historic and wonderful. So couldn't speak more highly about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there, did you have any considerations about having kids, how that would fit within your certainly demanding job? I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, your husband's a lawyer,
Yes.
still a lawyer. Like these
Yes.
are high performing, demanding jobs on all sides. I didn't know if there was a way that kids, you thought not that you thought twice, but you were a little unsure about what this might look like or how this might go.
I definitely was unsure about how it would look. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I always wanted to be a mom, and there
Yeah.
was no question in my mind about being a mom.
Yeah.
So basically, I just kind of ripped the band-aid and said, yeah, let's go for it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to figure this out once it happens. And billions of people before me have figured it out.
Right.
And my own long line of grandmothers had it so much harder than I did. They lived through
Yeah.
wars with kids and had full-time jobs as kids and
Yeah.
it had to wait in bread lines for 3 hours
Yeah.
with kids,
Yeah.
with jobs. So I felt like, I mean, it's hard, but it can't be that hard
Yeah. Yes.
comparatively. So I think that
Yes.
kind of empowered me to feel like whatever my hardest day is might have been their easiest day.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. We should all remember this. Yes. Totally agree. That being said, having a baby is hard. I was curious, like when you walked back in, you had a maternity leave, I'm guessing.
Yes.
How was that when you returned back to the office in a world that is maybe Summit is more progressive, has more women in leadership positions in general? But were there role models and others that were doing this to help you figure out how to do it?
Yeah, it's so interesting because there certainly were other senior women who had had children before,
Hmm.
and I hadn't really quite internalized their stories at the time.
Yeah, of
Kind of like it's
course.
not relevant until it's relevant.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but it was helpful having them there to look up to.
Hmm.
But the funny thing about COVID is that I never really went back to work for
Right.
that first time.
Yeah.
And so I think that made it easier and harder.
Yeah.
But it was easier in some sense because I could continue kind of this like, for example, breastfeeding.
Hmm.
Like I didn't have to figure out pumping for
Yeah.
a long time.
Hmm.
Little things like that logistically were made
Yeah.
easier, but it also coincided with one of the busiest professional times of my life.
Hmm.
I think I closed, I don't remember even, I've like probably 3 or 4 investments during that COVID period. Um, so it was incredibly
Hmm.
hard to just manage everything. But I think we all made it.
Yeah.
I think it's so like intertwined with COVID that it's hard to know what is causal, whether it's being a mom or just going through a pandemic.
Yeah.
But I
Fair.
think it was
Fair. Fair. Fair.
magical being able to be with my family and not have to travel and not have to be on the road. I actually am grateful for that time in some sense. So yeah, count my blessings.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What kind of a leave did you have? Did your husband get to take a leave too? I'm always
Yes.
curious
Yeah. I
what
can
it
get in
looks
the
like.
nitty gritties. So I
Yeah.
had like a 16-week leave, and then my
Hmm.
husband had maybe 8 weeks or so that we were able to stack on top of each other.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so we almost covered like the first 6 months of Jack's life.
Hmm.
And so that made it very easy. And then from there, actually, my parents moved up from Texas and bought a
Mm.
place in Boston, just a 5-minute walk from our house. And
Amazing.
really took a very instrumental role in watching Jack because it was very hard to find
Yeah.
childcare during COVID.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
It was supposed to be like a month-long thing, and then it turned out into like a 5-year thing. They're still here.
I was going to ask, are they still here? And are they your kind of safety net across the two of you with your two kids?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
so our kids go to, or when, Jack is now in kindergarten. He went to nursery school full time from 8 to 5:30, and then we also had a full time nanny once
Mhm.
COVID was kind of waning.
Yeah.
But there are so many times when a child gets sick or one child's here, another child's there. My parents are, I couldn't do this without them. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I mean by motherhood is so intertwined with all the
Yeah.
other roles in a family. It's just one giant
Yeah.
soup.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, one thing I also wanted to ask was, I I've seen again in my internet stalking of you, you talk a lot about how it's important to have more diverse perspectives in private equity and in making investment decisions, and you have to sort of find more maybe nuanced opportunities, maybe differently than you used to need. Do you see the world or investment opportunities, or do you have another lens or another view actually now as a mother, as a parent? Has that expanded what opportunities you see, or how you pursue different opportunities, or what you want to prioritize?
Definitely. Yes. I think, first of all, I think being a mother has made me so much more patient.
Mm,
You think about patient capital or long term oriented investors, and I think I finally understand what that means. I think you realize that no company or life or situation goes
mhm.
up to the right at all times. There will be tantrums, there will rocky starts, there will be product launches that completely fail, and
Mhm.
you have to be able to be a rock for either the CEO or your 2-year-old
Yeah.
and live through that without having a panic attack,
Yeah.
because it's not productive. And I think being a mother has just helped me see more perspective over time.
Mhm.
Directly translates to my job of just kind of managing a portfolio of companies.
Yeah.
Um, it's also made me realize that the opportunity costs of being a mom is so high. So
Mhm.
what I am doing at work, I need to be exceptional. And so I feel like I've really raised the bar on performance, on my portfolio, on every aspect sort of within my career. Because
Yeah.
I think if you're not performing at a top 1% on every dimension, I've got 2 kids at home who really need me.
Mm.
So it's kind of motivating in that way because if you're kind of just like clocking in or doing a mediocre job, it's just a waste of everyone's time.
That's so interesting. 'Cause, I love that take on it, because a lot of our guests talk about, once I had children, I needed to make sure I did work that mattered and was meaningful. What you're saying is, if I'm going to work, I have to be excellent at it. Not necessarily, and maybe you're already doing work that's meaningful, so you've like checked that box. But that's interesting that to you, or maybe in what you were saying, it sounds like the meaning is around, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it really well. Is that because do you find meaning and fulfillment and sort of identity through your work, or are you wonderfully fulfilled in other places in
Yeah,
other ways?
to me, the fulfillment comes from watching the sort of chaos that company building really is
Yeah.
and watching the sum be greater than its parts
Mhm.
over time. And so you start with this idea and it's high growth and it's exciting. And then over time, you have to professionalize the business and so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
watching that process over and over and over again, I find to be incredible
Yeah.
that we as humans can organize like a bunch of ants and
Mhm.
build something that is so impressive that other people want to buy it or be a part of it.
Yeah.
That growth journey, I think, is really, really exciting. And no two companies do it in the same way. And so
Yeah.
watching it over and over, it's just like an interesting way to build pattern recognition. I find that so exciting.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
study from an academic perspective, like how
Yeah.
all these various companies are so disparate and so different in their strategies, and yet they all have terrific outcomes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's great.
I see it in your face. You light up when you're talking about it. That's amazing. Does this all in retrospect make sense? You're like, this is what I should be doing. It makes sense that this is fulfilling to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just in some ways it's kind of this nice full circle effect of I feel like I'm fulfilling that entrepreneurial
Yeah.
drive that my great grandfather was never able to fulfill, but now I'm kind of doing it like time and time and time again and enable
Yeah.
over and over, even though I'm not the person actually building the company. But being able to invest in it and being part of the journey is really
Yeah. Yeah. I am curious, and maybe I don't know whether it's different post having your own kids, but there again, I've become more aware of this through all the guests that we're interviewing. But I don't know if it's a new trend or a trend, but the headlines being mothers leaving the workforce. And
fun.
then there's sort of a sub headline that's like, and some are starting their own businesses. Or you sort of see like a narrative around mother owned, mother started, women finally starting the company that they wish they had. Or do you see in from your vantage point in the world of tech, like are there interesting, noteworthy trends around the kind of companies, I don't know, mother led businesses and what those represent?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I run into more and more mother-led and women-led businesses all the time.
Yeah.
I was just thinking there was one business called Hop Skip Drive, which is
Mhm.
basically like Uber for children for after-school activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phenomenal company. And it's kind of addressing this unmet need of how do you get your child from school to soccer practice? It's not just like the bus to get them
Yep.
home. Um,
Mhm.
and it's also a really impressive business.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's also outside of even motherhood, there's a lot of just women-owned tech companies
Yeah.
that I see more and more frequently,
Yeah.
which I really didn't see 8 years ago. And so it's exciting to see kind of a growth in scale
Yeah.
that these companies are able to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. I always hold on to some, I think, I don't know, I'm making up a study from like Norway or Iceland or Sweden or something about um some investment group that was women led versus ones that were not, and suggesting that over time the performance is better.
Oh,
Is that
interesting.
something that does that? I know I'll pull it up and I'll fact check myself. And I'm sure there are many other studies, and I'm sure there's something nuanced about this one that makes it not relevant to everything. I like thinking about, and it's interesting having a husband who's also in private equity, where I'm like, there are, I just love the stories of maybe women do it. This is speaking in generalizations. Men and women often do many things in similar ways. But I like the idea that in an industry that was, started and dominated by men, that sort of women are coming in and doing, whether it's on the PE side or on the starting the business side, finding a way to do it differently that's actually maybe just as, if not maybe more effective.
Yeah,
Is that part of what you see when you're looking at businesses and sort of assessing their viability and like future success?
absolutely. I think having different lenses through which to manage a business, run a business, view markets, view competition, even view product development
Yeah.
is so important. And so having just differences of opinions at the board level and at the management level is
Mm-hmm.
always effective.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that empirically in performance. That's the great thing about, I think, this ecosystem is that the numbers don't lie. You can
Mm-hmm.
see the growth rate, you can see the margins, you can see the
Mm-hmm.
efficiency with which these companies are growing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are several women executives that we've backed over and over and over again because they
Yeah.
have a phenomenal track record of going in and being CEOs at companies and running them very, very effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, I think that's being able to kind of work with the same executive over and over and over again and having that longitudinal relationship is important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the women that we've worked with almost to a T have always been able to develop that longitudinal relationship, I think, because they are so consistent
Mm.
in the performance that they're able to drive.
Yeah. Yeah. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back slightly. You mentioned we were talking a little bit about kind of role modeling and before you had kids, and then once you had kids, kind of seeing or noticing other mothers at work in the office. And one of the reasons we wanted to try to start this and share more of these stories was this feeling that within a work context, mothers kind of hide their motherhood, which
Mm.
for plenty of good reasons. And then outside of the office, kind of parent as if they don't have a job. So being sort of stretched and in some ways hidden on different parts of life. I was curious if that is something that is evolving or how you have experienced that within a work setting. When I was at Google, and there would be little moments where a super high up leader would mention their home life or would mention that they had to be late because their daughter had an unexpected ear infection, like kind of little bit of it seeping through, and yet they're crushing it and performing and showing up as a professional. It was sort of like eased some sort of pressure that I didn't realize I had, which was
Yeah.
we don't have to pretend that there's nothing going on outside of work, even at the highest levels. I'm curious, like, what if you could share kind of your experience with that phenomenon, whether at Summit or otherwise, which I know you weren't a parent before being at Summit, but kind of how you see letting a little bit of outside the motherhood in to the office.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Companies are not robotic apparatuses. And
Mm-hmm.
so we should not behave like we're a part of like a cog in a wheel. We have to take this sort of like humanistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think I've had phenomenal role models here at the firm who have very humanistic approaches around parenthood and their
Mm-hmm.
families. And folks will very often talk about their kids at the start of a meeting and,
Mm-hmm.
like a soccer game or something like that, or something at school or travel. And I think that is so sort of disarming.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
Yeah.
you get closer to whoever you're talking to. And so
Yeah.
I think it's such a powerful tool to
Yes.
connect with people who
Yes.
otherwise are just going to be looking at like the facts and circumstances and numbers. But like if you can get to know someone more intrinsically,
Yeah.
I think it's just a powerful way to build relationships and mentorship
Yes.
over time.
Yes.
And I think that's actually what makes people successful ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
um, are those relationships. And the only way you can do that is by coming to work with your whole self and
Mm-hmm.
talking about the little funny things that happened on the ride to school that day.
Yeah, for sure. Have there been some like harrowing experiences of like the reality of parenthood? Just like, I don't know. We have many that are kind of returning to work and the pump room didn't work and you had to like, I don't know, you were on a work trip and then you had to sort of, I don't know, hand pump for like
Yeah,
weeks. Um I just kind of love these moments where like the imperfection is like on full display.
yeah,
And you've powered through. I don't know if there are things about that or examples that might have come to life for you.
definitely. I mean, then so a lot of my job is traveling. So when you're
Mm,
traveling, you don't know where the next pump room is going to be. You have no
yeah.
idea. Like you cannot plan for anything. So the number
Yeah.
of times I've had to like pump in a gas station or a hotel lobby or like the crazy places,
Yeah.
I cannot even begin to count.
Yeah.
But that's all minor inconveniences in the grand scheme
Yeah.
of things. I would say probably my lowest low of parenting occurred shortly after my daughter was born. She stopped breathing and she was
Mm.
put on a ventilator, and then she was eventually put on a breathing tube, and then her organs shut down.
Oh
And
man.
I thought that this was basically she was like a stillborn child. I went downstairs and I saw probably like 10 to 15 doctors around her little NICU box.
Yeah.
And it was the scariest moment of my life. I kind of said, like, is she alive? What's going
Ugh.
on? And there was just very long pause. And then eventually someone said she's in critical condition, but she is currently stable. And that was a very dark time. I think it was clear. They basically explained to me that if she was born 50 years ago, she would not be here today, but we
Yeah.
have technology to sustain her. And being in the birthing ward of a hospital with no baby and
Yeah.
congratulating you every
Ugh.
5 minutes and watching
Ugh.
all the dads and the grandparents come upstairs with their newly packaged car seats to
Mm.
take their babies home, and you not knowing what to tell your 3.5-year-old son who's kind of waiting for his sister to arrive.
Yeah.
Um, that was probably the lowest low of being a parent. But she made it.
Yeah.
Part because
Yeah.
she's a very tough cookie, and also
Yeah.
because the doctors and nurses of Boston Children's Hospital literally kept her alive for long enough
Yeah.
to
Oh
heal.
my
And
God.
now
Yeah.
that very average 2-year-old miracle. So she's had no long-term
Oh,
impacts from that terrible 2-week period. But
wow.
that event, although it was the hardest of my life, it completely rewired my brain and changed my perspective on motherhood. when my kids wake up because they had a bad dream at 3 a.m. or they wet the bed or they don't eat the supper that I painstakingly made for them from scratch,
Right.
I don't really feel frustration anymore. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that they are alive and healthy.
Yeah.
And I wish I could bottle that up and give it to people because
Yeah.
it's perspective that I completely lacked with my
Mm-hmm.
first kid. And I was always like, oh, this is so hard. How do you balance everything? Um, and all of those questions of like, where am I going to pump? Or I now am grateful that
Yeah.
that if the hardest thing is that you're having to pump at a gas station, let that be the hardest thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I could have lived my entire life not knowing how precious life was. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad I learned it when I was in my
Yeah. Oh my God. Holy shit. I'm so glad it worked out, obviously. But
yeah.
of course. Did that have I know other people in my life would be like, after that, I'm never leaving this child's side. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be home all the time. Like, is that in the back of your mind of like to the point of it's so precious, like, let me be there always?
Yeah. I can totally see someone getting to that conclusion. But I
Yeah.
actually sort of think that in order to enjoy parenthood, you almost need the balance of going away and coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
still remember this is COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
being in a closet with, I think there was like vomit, poop, pee, and like blood on me, like
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
my baby. And I
Yeah.
go in the closet to take my like review, it's like your annual review. It's very
Mm-hmm.
big deal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember actually getting promoted sitting in that closet,
Mm-hmm.
drenched in I don't even know what, and
Yeah.
thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. It's a great opportunity. And then I come back into the room and have to like deal with the pee and the vomit.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, this is interesting because I actually am like whistling while I work because I
Mm-hmm.
just got this great thing at work. And it makes it so much easier to go through the trenches of motherhood
Yeah.
when you can have other highs and lows and they kind of like counterbalance each other.
Yeah.
Or when I'm having a tough day at work, I can look at my kids and be like, hey, they're doing great.
Yeah.
And those counterbalances are, I think, keep me going every day. Otherwise,
I
I think I
totally
could get
agree.
like stuck in a rut and it's hard to get the perspective that you need to enjoy either side, either working or motherhood.
Totally.
So I
Yes.
never really considered just kind of being at Claire's side 24/7, maybe in
Yeah.
part also subconsciously because all of my mothers, my grandmother, like everyone always worked around me. And so I don't
Yeah.
have that mental model of what that would
Yeah.
even look like.
I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just love the balance.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I often think about like my high school self where I did, a variety of, I had the academics, but I also had various sports and music. And yes, it was a lot, but it meant that if I had a bad game, like I could do okay I could write a good essay. Or if I
Yeah,
like tanked exam, I could go like crush it on the soccer field. Or like it is
totally.
important, I think, to have the counterbalance to your point. And ideally like many counterbalances.
Yeah.
Do you also another theme that has come up is a sort of it's you could see it as both pressure and also kind of like a great honor, but some mothers we've spoken with that feel a responsibility to role model certain things for
Mm,
their daughter specifically.
mm.
You've mentioned many times, which is great. It's so entrenched in who you are and your DNA, basically, of mother's work, and it's not noteworthy.
It's not like a
Um,
feminist statement. It's
exactly. Yes.
not a
Yes. It's like we sustain ourselves by working and we also do other stuff. Do you think about that for your daughter or for both of your kids about what it means for them to see you professionally?
guess so. I think I haven't really thought about I think about being a role model in a lot of different variety, like in a lot of different vectors, but
Yeah.
I don't think of my job as necessarily being something that they need to or should look up to.
Yeah.
Because I think I have my own lineage and history and grandparents, but
Yeah.
Claire is in this country now. She's
Yeah.
born in this country, and there are many ways to be a mom,
Yeah.
including being a full time mom.
Yeah.
And so I, I don't, I hope that she can see all these various paths and choose one for herself
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think it's my path is the only path.
Yeah.
So I hope I can give her one example.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to shed a tear if she isn't following my footsteps. I
Yeah.
just want her to live her awesome life.
Yes. I
Um,
love that. I
yeah.
love that. That's great. Summit's clearly done something good, or maybe you are just, you glow no matter what, but I feel like they've done something. They seem like they're giving you space to thrive and exist in the rest of your life, like as a mother. Are there any specific things of like why you seem to feel so comfortable and confident and capable as you're also you're delivering beyond at work from everything I can see. And you're also carrying a lot at home. And not all office spaces, like there are a lot of people that could be in your shoes and be like frazzled and be like, I am behind always, or I feel like I'm sucking at this, or my boss is like grinding on something, or they're demanding stuff that doesn't make sense. Like you seem like you can breathe in the middle of a necessary storm. I don't know. Are there some tangible things that make that possible for you from
I
a
mean,
workplace or even beyond?
there are definitely tangible things. I mean,
Yeah.
my parents being in town and help, knowing that I have someone at all times who
Yeah.
can be backup
Yeah.
is something that I know not everyone has.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really. And my kids love going to their grandparents. Like they
Mm-hmm.
beg to go to Nenny's house all the
Right.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is huge. Within the firm, there are structural things around just flexibility and around just policies that we have in place, which are not atypical,
Yeah.
actually. But I think it's about the implementation and just the vibe. The
Yes, the culture. Totally.
culture is around, you can have something on paper, like you get X weeks, but if the culture is supporting it, I think that is really important. And we have that culture here because I think we want to encourage people of many different backgrounds to be a part of the firm because it
Yeah.
better returns for everyone. Um, and there's also, I'd say, like, it's easy to get flustered in this job because, and this is not within the firm, this is outside of the firm. When I go to conferences or when I talk to entrepreneurs, oftentimes I'm not what they would expect to
Hmm.
see.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times you get questions like, oh, are you who I'm supposed to be meeting? Are you the only person I'm supposed to be meeting? Is
Yeah.
where's the real deal
Oh
person?
my God.
Um,
Yes.
not in so many words, but you kind of feel this pressure.
Yeah.
And I used to feel that pressure and it used to be upsetting, but I started to think, well, this is actually an opportunity because this person clearly has misjudged or misunderestimated, to use
Yeah.
language from a former president, has misunderestimated
Right. Yeah. Oh, good.
my capabilities. So
Mm-hmm.
every time I kind of hear that, I kind of think like, wow, buddy, you better sit down because I'm about to knock your socks off. You're about to be impressed. And so I think like rewiring that was like a huge breakthrough for me to calm down and be able to perform because I think no one performs well under pressure. So you
Yeah.
have to figure out what makes you nervous so that you can tackle that and no longer feel like you're performing under pressure. You're just performing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so
That,
to me, it was about like how I am perceived outside of the four walls of my office.
that's
Inside
interesting.
here, it's a very open place, but the world is varied. There's all sorts
Right.
of people you run into in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Where did you find that confidence, that like sense of self to be? Many others would show up and feel shitty about themselves and be like, maybe they're right. I don't know. What am I doing here? I'm out of place. But you have a wherewithal to say, as you said, you misunderestimated me. um, where does that come from?
I don't know. I grew up in West Texas. So
Mm-hmm.
I had this like weird dichotomy of a background where, parents who grew up in a socialist society come to West Texas in like a very free-spirited, individualistic, libertarian, kind of rugged
Mm-hmm.
frontiersman, oilman
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gave me a lot of examples of both men and actually women in particular who went against the grain and
Mm-hmm.
were very outspoken. Um, and were kind of no bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, where I grew up, um, credentials didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about what you brought to the table, your ideas, your thoughts, whether you were kind,
Yeah.
whether you did the right thing, whether you had good character, all of those things mattered very much, maybe disproportionately,
I
however you
love
may.
that. As a
But
Bostonian, I'm like, tell me more about what that would be like.
yeah,
All
it
we
was,
care about our credentials.
yeah, it was a different, very different culture,
That's great. Yeah.
but it kind of let me be able to get my guard down and be like, okay, let's like just get to the brass tacks of
Good
what we're
for
talking
you.
about here. And I think that was a very helpful culture to grow up in,
Yeah.
because it was very weirdly egalitarian and open.
Yeah.
Anyone could be anything at any time if you worked hard and kept your head down.
Yeah. That's great. What a good model. I'm so glad I'm glad you have kids to absorb this model firsthand. It's really it's fun. It's a sort of nice to be around even virtually here. um So, okay. So, in closing, we do these three kind of short answer questions that I would love to get your thoughts on. One is if you could go back and tell your new mom self one thing, is there anything that comes to mind?
I'd say there's a phrase in Bulgarian that translates to the day is known from dawn. Your kid is going to be who they're going to be from the moment they're born.
Hmm.
And you can try to sway them and you can argue with them. But ultimately, if you just feed them and clothe them, they will be fine. And I
Yeah.
wish someone told me that, because I was convinced of all the parenting books that you need to do this and this and this in order for your child to succeed and get
Right.
grit. We talk about grit and we talk about all these like characteristics and all the
Yeah.
parenting that you can foster. While I'm sure a lot of that science is sound,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you can foster it and support it, I also think it can drive you crazy. And I
Yeah.
think that wisdom of like the day is known from dawn, like your kid is who they are pretty much at birth,
Hmm.
kind of like makes you calmer.
Yeah.
You can just
Yeah.
kind of let go and be like, you know what? I just need to like feed and clothe these children and my job
Right.
here is done.
Right. Yes.
It lowers the bar to parenting. And I think this day and age, the bar is so high. Like you've got
Yeah.
to do everything.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I think of it as sort of
Let
like
go.
I'm like gentle guardrails to make sure things don't like totally go off the rails, but generally speaking, they are who they are. And often the hardest things are the best things that they have to for them to deal with. So I agree. I love that philosophy. It's also
Yeah.
a healthy philosophy. It allows parents to be okay,
Yes.
and not be so consumed. Which, to your point,
I wish someone told me all those parenting books were bogus.
I know. I so far, knock on wood, have not actually read any, and I'm
Oh, good.
taking that. So I mean,
Keep it
either that
going.
means we are like blessed with kids who are quote unquote easy-ish so far, and maybe they'll come in later. I'll get all the like teenager books, which is not ready for that.
Oh God.
Um, okay, and so next one is if there's anything along this journey of motherhood so far is that could have made it easier. I feel like from what we've learned just now, like you've done a really good job of pulling in reinforcements, setting up systems. Maybe not surprising. But is there anything that would have made it easier beyond that?
Honestly, I think the gift of having family nearby is
Mm-hmm.
so special. And it's something that I hope to be able to do for my children one day. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's possible because I feel like people move and they don't live where their nuclear family is anymore.
Yeah.
It's hard to accomplish
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it if we were able to somehow foster more community, I think that would be, it really does take a village to raise children.
Yeah.
And whether
Yes.
it's sort of group early childhood, childcare, like we had a nanny share early on in COVID, which
Mm-hmm.
is very helpful to have like a couple parent groups with
Yeah.
one couple nannies or so on and so forth. I think like thinking about those more creative, like microstructures of childcare that
Yeah.
aren't daycares. Although actually we loved sending our children to daycare and that was a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful experience. But at the earliest days,
Yeah.
I think just having more arms to pass the baby to
Yes.
is helpful.
Totally.
And so just
Totally.
thinking about whether it's family or neighbors or friends, somehow um, figuring out how you can have close proximity to that network.
Yeah.
I would think about that more if I could do it all over again. And I wish I
Yeah.
could that to others as well.
Yes, yes. This is one of the most consistent answers to this question or theme of a conversation, which is like, I wish there was more community, or I wish there was more connection, or you need support. It takes a village. And yet it's the thing that we seem to have the hardest time finding. I'm curious, maybe one of your portfolio companies will eventually like solve this, but it is so fascinating that it's like, it's what we want. And yet
we can't have it.
We can't find a way to have it. There used to be, I think before you moved to Boston, I'm guessing there was something called, it was a terrible name in retrospect, something called ISIS in Boston. This was before all of that kind of filled that. I don't know. It's like a community center, but it was all around. It was beyond baby groups, but it was a place to connect and sort of be together and show up. Like they made it easy for you to show up. This was, I think, mostly early days of kid, like, I don't know, 0 to 1 kind of thing, where it became, and Boston's small enough that like that one center can actually create a lot of connection and people really show up and you have like a meaningful number of people. But I agree, we haven't figured out how to replicate that.
I love that. I do think COVID disrupted a lot of that. Like,
for sure.
I had this mommy group that I was going to be a part of and never happened. So like it disrupted a lot of connection points. I think it was a very isolating time to be a mom.
Yes. Yes. So maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see some solutions just in time. All right. Our last question is, your kids may be listening or one day they will. Is there anything you'd like to say to them?
Sure. Jack and Claire, I see the future in your eyes and it looks bright. And you make the most mundane activities like reading books, taking a bath, riding a car, you turn them into adventures somehow. So I thank you for just bringing me along on your adventure. I think motherhood is, like they say, there's no such thing as a free lunch. I think motherhood is the one free lunch you get. So
I love that. It's fun. My dad quotes to me that there's no free lunch. I'm going to go back to him and say, hey, Dad, maybe we actually have one. That's awesome. Thank you so much for all of this. You're phenomenal. I'm so glad to have met you. And thank you for all that you're doing. You're so great at it. Keep doing it.
It's incredible what you're doing. So thank you for doing this work.
Slowly between the two of us, we can, change and save the world, and with your kids at least. So amazing. Bye, Sophia. All right. For the rest of us still here, we're trying something a little bit new. So bear with us. I'm going to give V a call and debrief. Wait, this is this is so cute.
Hi.
I missed you.
I missed you.
You sound so your voice sounds so robust on your phone.
Oh,
it's
really?
Almost like better than the microphone.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I love that for me. Also surprising because I'm outside, so you would think that would be worse.
I don't know.
But okay.
Go iPhone. Really killing it.
Turns out, thanks Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. He knew what he was doing. Wait, what are you up to? You're wandering around?
No, I'm just sitting on the porch getting fresh air. We're grounding. We're grounding.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, V, so happy to find you. Coincidentally, you're free. Just finished up an interview.
Tell me about it. Tell me about your job.
Okay, so I spoke to Sophia, who is a partner, which is pretty badass, given that I think she's fairly young, at Summit Partners, which is a private equity shop. And she's just joy and glow incarnate. And like, she's honestly she's like a dream employee. I feel like every company should be led by or would be carried by a Sophia. Like the kind of person who's like, we'll just always find a way to get it done. Super responsible, super capable, makes hard things easy, makes challenges and failures opportunities, like without even like thinking about it. And so, we should all be Sophia.
Teach us how, Sophia.
Yes. And she has 2 kids who are young, let's say like under 5. So we talked about her life. She's from Bulgaria, and they moved from socialist Bulgaria to Waco, Texas.
Oh.
And
interesting pivot.
Exactly.
Brave move.
Yes. And she was saying that like her parents, mothers and otherwise were always worked. Like it was just always the thing that they did. There was no like necessary glory in it. It was just sort of the way that it was. And so that is just also, I think, the way that she sees her professional life now, which is like, this is what we do. And there's some people who have this sort of practical resume building thing and it feels annoying and like they're following a script.
Yep.
I feel like for her, these seem like very intentional decisions that were related to like understanding herself, which made it so it all feels like very authentic. But so she always loved tech, was sort of in a wonderful way like a tech nerd, and then was at Yale, studied economics to sort of and math because she liked those things and they were sort of practical-ish. And then she went to Morgan Stanley to learn about like the broader world of finance and how kind of America works. And then instead of, this is one of my favorite moves too, instead of going from Morgan Stanley to like another kind of blue chippy finance thing, she leapt to a 4-person startup and ran product for them. And she was like, wasn't necessarily the most impressive startup thing, but they did go through the process of idea to product to eventually being bought. So she experienced all of that, which is great exposure.
Yeah.
And then she joined Summit Partners in the private equity world, investing in early stage tech companies. So it's kind of this nice, it's a career path that like makes a lot of sense. Like it was very and
She's
not
been
even
on both
like
ends.
yeah. And then had her 2 kids when she was at Summit. But one of my favorite anecdotes that I needed to share with you, she was, I don't know, grade schoolish, doing one of those like paint by numbery things.
Yes.
And I think her great grandfather was like, you can decide what color you want to choose.
Oh.
And she's like, I've thought about that really ever since. And I am now going to think about it ever since and make sure that I say that to my kids, especially my girls.
That is the most beautiful. What a simple thing that probably didn't like, he probably didn't think about the impact of saying something like that to his granddaughter in the moment. Like it probably was just as simple as being like, yeah, like doesn't have to be red, even though it says red.
Yes.
And now this like totally affected the trajectory of her life.
I know. I thought that was a great, important nugget and now it can be an important nugget in all of our lives. But that was a key theme. I also kept trying really hard to be like, what you're doing is really hard. You're carrying so many things, but like, tell me how it's hard. And it seemed she was just there. None of it was necessarily seen as being hard. Like the experience didn't seem as hard. And yet one of the reasons that came through eventually was she was saying that the birth of her daughter, her second kid, was quite traumatic and had sort of basically a near death experience with the newborn. And that like profoundly shifted her perspective on everything and was just like moved from elements of this are really hard and annoying to being like, I'm just grateful that I get to wake up at 3 a.m. and like deal with you being upset. So that I think is important. And I do think this element of gratitude, however, in whatever we're doing in our lives is like, I don't know, something to hold on to wherever it comes from.
I think that's something so many people like strive to do, is to take a complex or traumatic or triggering event and say like, this is going to affect me, not in a way that it's going to paralyze me or make me like stop me from making decisions, but rather like, I don't know, inspire you to just be appreciative. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, maybe that happens for like a day or a week, but to be able to say that like affects her decisions in like a broader term, even like choosing work and like being happy to like show up for work and like face a challenge, like hell yeah.
Yeah.
Go
totally.
on. Good for her.
I know.
Aw.
She also said her parents moved eventually from Texas to Boston to be closer to her, and they've become. She has a whole system, as is necessary often, of between daycares and nannies, but then now also her parents are kind of that consistent safety net, which she mentioned many times, which is great. About like, obviously, let's not hide that this is true, but how essential that stuff is, and how much of a difference it can make to allowing the parents to thrive on top of the kids.
Totally.
So yeah. And within that, we did talk about how we all would love to have more community and connection and how to do that. And I was like, maybe one of your companies that you identify will turn into that. But these are the challenges. This is what everyone wants to figure out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. I know.
I love that.
I know.
She sounds like a badass.
Yeah.
Also, cool. It sounds like she seemingly has challenged doing things because she wants to do them rather than what's expected.
Yes.
That's something that I would also like to do myself, and think that more people would be genuinely happy and have the energy to show up for things if it felt like a choice rather than an obligation or a this is the means to exist right now. So
Yes. She
teach
actually,
it out.
yes. To that point, she brought up an example of, because I was like sort of, I mean, just complimenting her on how it seemingly kind of together and solid and
Sure.
strong she can be with her full life at work. And she was saying that within the context of Summit, there's a lot of good cultural stuff that makes that possible, but
Mm-hmm.
that outside of the walls of Summit and out in like the real world, there are many times where she'll show up, and she is, kind of a beautiful petite woman in the showing up in these like investment settings, and that there'll be meetings that she was describing at conferences or whatever, and she shows up and basically, in not so many words, the person on the other end, who's typically probably a guy, is like, is there someone else that's coming? Are you the meeting?
Oh, wow.
And that her response to that is, wow, they underestimated me. And I was like, where does that come from? Because a lot of people might show up in that environment where they're already kind of, in some ways, the odd one out.
Sure.
And then to be in an intimate meeting and be like, someone else should be
Is this
here.
it?
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
might not respond to that with, I'm going to show you what an idiot you are.
Mm.
And she said that a lot of that, and this was so interesting given the challenges of our time, was that so much of that was she credited to, I'm sure, many things. But what she mentioned was growing up where she grew up in, I think, West Texas is where Waco is.
Yeah.
And how people there it wasn't about your credentials. No one cared about those, which unfortunately we know all too well now. But it was, what are you delivering and what do you bring to the table? And what are your ideas? And I was like, that's such a nice difference.
Well,
and something compared to like my experience in Boston is credentials first, ideas second in a certain way. And even not the idea, but also like, how are you expressing those ideas? Your ability live is like the last thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's actually a really positive way of thinking about like how to think
it
of
should be
this
the
world.
way.
I know, I
'Cause
know.
it's like, yeah. Think of
Yes.
all the people who don't have access to get the credential, have the experience or like not even necessarily like a paper experience, but just like the mental experience or like the ideas to get shit
Yes.
done, but just
Yes.
didn't have the means to
Correct.
go to,
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
I also thought that was really interesting, not to get overly
yeah.
political in the moment, but like there was a nugget around the culture of Texas that feels like
Totally.
in today's political discourse, like
Mm-hmm.
there are ways to use that for good and ways to use that for evil.
100%.
And yeah, really.
Mhm.
Anyways, she was a very awesome, impressive person, and I was glad to have an excuse to talk to her.
I love it. Did
yeah.
she have a third thing? What does Sophia do so
Oh,
that she can
awesome
be
question.
yeah,
I didn't ask the question. I should have. But
not
what
direct.
she
Yeah.
in that to that broader like concept, she did
Mhm.
talk a lot about how I think for her work is just very all consuming and
Yeah.
also really meaningful, and she loves, this is one thing, I'm going to come back to your question, but along the way talked about how for her, how our guests are like, well, if I'm going to work, I want to do something that's like that matters and is important.
Yep.
She was like, if I'm going to work, I want to do it really well. And I was like, that's interesting because, and I think sort of suggests that she is in the right place doing work that she cares about already. But she did say that she does find what she does really fascinating, exciting, and organically like lit up as she was talking about it. But into the quote, third thing premise, she talked a lot about how the balance of having kids are like the nice counterbalance to
Interesting.
work for her. So it's like, she talked specifically about times where she'd be like on some, especially in pandemic times when everyone was at home anyway. I think she found out she was promoted. She was sitting in like a closet taking this call to find some privacy and quiet. And they were basically saying like, you got promoted, good news. And then she closes the laptop, turns to her left, and there's like poop and dirty laundry and like pee everywhere, and just like kind of the reality of like parenting right in front of her. And she was like, this is, so it's that kind of, she thought of it as like the counterbalance.
Yes.
But yeah, it was, yeah, she was
Wow.
very impressive.
That's an interesting thing we have yet to hear of, like, not necessarily, I mean, I'm sure she has third things in general, but like being able to say, I'm choosing to work and the work that I'm doing feels genuinely good and fulfilling. I mean, I guess that has come up, but like not in the capacity that it sounds like she voiced it. So I love that.
It actually reminds me of, do you remember back to my interview with my mom where she was talking about being desire to be effective?
Yes.
For herself, and also looking at me like, I know you wanted to be effective. I was like, I've never thought about it like that. But that's kind of, I think, what Sophia was like getting at, was like, if I'm going to go do this, like be effective at it. And I feel that also. I get that. It was, well said, and a new insight. So, amazing.
I love it.
Okay, really quick.
Yes.
What is your joy?
Oh, I think my joy is that I got to see you face to face yesterday.
Yes, we did.
For the first time in so long, it felt like.
I don't know when
it was the last time our live event. No, is that true?
I think the last time I saw you was like on Nantucket.
Yeah, so that felt,
which
just
was
nice to see you and giggle with you and have you call me out. I'm not going to the doctor yet.
Did you go?
What? Since yesterday?
Did you go? You said you were going to walk in there.
I was like, Sarah, how could I have possibly? You know, dang well. No, because we got very hung up at the pediatrician. Yeah, we were there for a little over an hour, and then by that point he was falling asleep, and I was like, this is not our journey. But it is on my list of things to do today, and I will text you after I do it.
I will text you.
100%. I'm doing it today.
Amazing. Otherwise, I'm going to outsource it to Sophia, and she'll.
Otherwise, you're
going
to say my kid's name on live on the podcast. No.
Oh man.
Where's your joy today?
Where's my joy today? Man, that's an interesting question. For some reason, joy feels fleeting. I feel more like joy. I feel more like stably, in a way that's really good. Stably is not the word, but I feel like my general condition is feeling good, as opposed to being like, is this working? Is this not? What are we doing? And kind of either it's being held together or it's falling apart. I feel more like, okay, maybe we have a foundation. I think I feel, and whether that's joy or just something to feel good about, I don't know. But I do think, I guess joy is supposed to be like a singular moment. What were we thinking about joy? Insist on your joyfulness. Insist on my joy.
Yeah, was there
what's a
one
moment
thing
of joy
this week that felt just like,
oh, well, obviously you already took your own, you being here, but I think the thing on top of that was I love the end of this story too. So you were here, obviously, and I've had this cute bomber jacket that I wore when I was 2 that I think, I want to say, almost came from my dad. It looks very like a dad jacket.
It's so cool.
It's like
for the followers
retro. Yes, it's like retro Red Sox-ish, but doesn't at all have any Red Sox paraphernalia. I don't know what. I think it's Oshkosh Bagosh.
Yes.
But it's like a obviously now sort of worn navy, and then like little strips of red and white that are very just on the shoulder pieces.
It's very cool.
And the cuffs. And it's one of those items where it's like, this has been around forever. I don't want to lose it. God bless my mother who has kept it since I wore it. But I don't want to donate it, but I also don't want to carry it around forever.
I don't want this.
And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe let's give it to V, and your very cool son could wear it. So that's what I did, and then you forgot to bring it home. But
okay, but in my defense, I immediately put it on him, and weirdly, like, it was like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants moment where it like fit, even though it shouldn't.
Yes.
And then I folded it nicely because I was like, I can't lose this.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know where did I leave it? I don't even know where it got left. I swear I put it in my bag. So.
Very casually and carelessly on the floor, I think, in a playroom. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It was discarded.
You're like, I found it literally.
But I do love, to the point of community and connection and finding, I don't know, I like these the things that pass through time.
Oh,
who knows what what the next step is for that jacket, but it does make you feel good to like hand things on to people.
I think
I don't do it a lot.
The best thing ever. I told Sarah that we should put a little like patch in it of like who's worn it or something, so it has like history. I feel like
that's
that would be
a
really
cute idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, and like a handprint or something. Elvine does that where it's like previously worn by, you know what I mean?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We could do that. I feel like you'll do it in a cool V way, but I like that.
Try to make a patch or something. I'm similar. Going off on that, we have this bassinet that we were given by friends in California. And then I've just like kind of passed it along because it's only good for like 2 months when they're like really tiny. And I'm like, we need to do that. Put all the names of the babies that have slept in this. And I'm like, how sweet is that?
Totally.
So cute.
Oh,
We don't pass our grown-up things around the same way. Why not?
Yes, we should. That's why.
There,
Maybe that's
here's my
why I love the
panty.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Yeah, exactly.
Here's a sweater from Target that is not going to withstand the test of time. Yeah, is that
I do need to
funny?
go shopping. I have no clothes left. But yeah.
Well,
Well, we missed you, V.
missed you.
I feel like for
I
everyone
appreciate
listening,
you sharing.
we're playing around with our, I don't know, what do we call this? Playing around with our
format.
format. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
And figuring out what works for our
Trying to
life
see what
stages.
works. Yeah.
But yeah, you're awesome. I miss you.
I love you. I miss you. So does he.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, V. Well, thank you for being on this journey and
Thank you,
listening to our
Sara.
little, very unexpected, organically created recap.
Thank you, Sophia. I'm excited to hear about you.
Yes, so cool. You'll enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, you're the best.
Love you.
You're the best. Love you
Great
too.
day.
Yeah, you too. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.